Joining us right now to talk more about that are three dairy farmers from America's heartland. Mark Czech, a Minnesota dairy farmer, Jim Ostrom, CEO of Milk Source with farms throughout the Midwest, and Jeff Schwager, president of Sartori Cheese. Good to see you all. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and weighing in. Jeff, let me kick it off with you. Tell us how the tariffs are affecting your cheese exports.
Well, roughly about a little over 10% of our business is export business. We've had to reduce basically our selling price to cover the tariffs in Mexico with our import partners and our customers there, so that the consumers aren't seeing an impact on it. So what was profitable business is now unprofitable or maybe break even at best.
So what do you want to see happen, Jeff? I mean, what was your life like before these tariffs went into place, knowing that you were probably on the losing end of a deal?
You know, before the tariffs went in place, we were focused on growing the business and growing profitable business around the world. Now we're focused on maintaining business. It's not good for the long term.
Jim, when will dairy producers feel the effect of these tariffs, or have you already in your dairy business, Jim?
Good morning. Yes, the dairy industry is feeling the effects, I would say, substantially. I think what separates our situation from really the rest of the country is that we have just recently started to come out of a pretty substantial recession as an industry. And just as we're seeing some upward tick to futures prices, the trade war broke out. I estimate that the industry is going to lose about, and is losing about $10 million a day, $3.6 billion a year just in dairy. So that's not soybean, that's not corn, that's not pork, that's just dairy. And I can also tell you that I know personally large farms and small farms that are under immense stress, and they don't have a lot of alternatives to survive this. So we welcome help from the government, from Department of Agriculture and Secretary Perdue, and I think it's going to be needed.
So this you're saying this $12 billion is really needed right now. I mean, you know, the question, of course, becomes, when does it end? Is the government going to start doling out money to every industry affected by these tariffs?
You know, I think that's a very fair point. I don't know anybody in agriculture that wants any government subsidy. We want a free market, and I urge the White House to negotiate aggressively, find trade partners, starting with Mexico, our largest trade partner. We've already lost markets to Mexico. Our markets to China and Canada are under stress. Any success that the White House can get will help the industry to move forward, and in all of agriculture in general.
All right, so let me move on to you, Mark. Tell us about your dairy farm. How's it doing right now? Do you think that the president can help? Is this going to help over the long term, or are you also looking at a money-losing situation as a result of this?
Well, this is a short-term fix. We need to fix the global. We need to be on fair trade. Honestly, our dairy farm is struggling right now, probably worse than it ever has. I do agree with President Trump. We need to fix this long term so that we can have sustainable agriculture.
Are you seeing higher expenses, and are you passing them on to the consumer as a result of the retaliation?
Well, we really can't pass it on. We have a perishable product. We milk cows. Our milk leaves the farm. You know, we basically get what the market is. It's very hard. It's one thing with farming. It's always been. What other business, you know, really puts a product out there without knowing the returns?
So what do you want to see from the administration at this point? Jeff, kick us off on this one as well. I mean, what would you like to see the president do at this point?
Well, I think we'd like to see, you know, free trade, as people have mentioned here. You know, we need to get trade agreements in place. Europe's ahead of us. They've gotten free trade agreements recently done with Canada and Mexico, and we're sitting on the sidelines. We need those agreements in place.
Right, but, you know, the president said, look, let's drop all tariffs, and that went unanswered. Jeff, your thoughts on that same question? What do you want to see out of government now? I mean, is this going to be effective, this $12 billion in aid for you?
I mean, it's not going to affect the manufacturers at all. And, you know, the farmers need the help. It needs to go there. But, you know, $12 billion is not going to, you know, as Jim mentioned, you know, $3.6 billion in a year is just dairy. It's not going to cover the other markets.
Yeah. So, Mark, let me show you what the president is saying now, because he's actually right now tweeting about trade and about the farmers. He says, every time I see a weak politician asking to stop trade talks or the use of tariffs to counter unfair tariffs, I wonder, what can they be thinking? Just going to continue and let our farmers and country get ripped off? Lost $817 billion on trade last year. No weakness. Mark, your thoughts on the president's tweet right now?
I agree with the president. We have to stand firm. We got to stand up. Congress has to stand up and fight for this free trade. It just needs to be done. This has been a long time like this. This isn't just something happened in the last couple of years.
So what are you going to do?
This has been going on for decades.
I mean, what are all of you going to do? Jim, weigh in here. If this is sort of the law of the land, that, you know, our trading partners across the world do not back down and they retaliate and they target the Farm Belt.
You know, I think what's important, and I would ask the president to be acutely aware of this, is that there's a massive transfer of wealth going on from agriculture in the United States to agricultural producers elsewhere. Because they are taking our market from us because of these tariffs. So, while I agree with leveling the playing field, the playing field is getting swiped clean here in the United States because wealth is being transferred. You know, I think going forward, unfortunately, we're in commodity production, and it is a difficult business. And as we were coming out of the dairy recession and starting in March and April, now we're going to have to solve this with people leaving the industry, and that's really heartbreaking for many people, families. You know, we in agriculture, we raise our children to raise farmers, our grandchildren, and it is going to be a very painful process if we don't solve this trade problem.
Do you think that this aid is a good idea from the government?
I think it is nothing more than a short-term fix, and if dairy is $3.2 or $3.6 billion of it, it's probably not going to be enough. And I'd much rather see some solid trade deals come along.
And so, in terms of solid trade deals, you just heard Sonny Perdue saying, "Look, we're probably going to get something done with Mexico sooner than later, and then hopefully Canada follows suit." Is that what you'd like to see, Jim?
Yeah, in that order. I think that's going to be very essential for our success.
Mark, you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
And Jeff, final word here.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Mexico first, Canada second. And really on the dairy side, we've got to get rid of the supply side management that Canada has for dairy and get to a true free trade agreement with up there.
All right, we will leave it there. Mark Czech, Jim Ostrom, and Jeff Schwager. Great to see you all. Thanks so much, gentlemen.